Welcome back to Knowledge Resources Author Insights. We're taking a look at mindfulness in the workplace with psychologist Rakhi Beekrum, who is a contributor to our Improving Mental Health in the Workplace book. Rakhi, thank you so much for joining us today. I would like to hear a little bit more about you, if you could introduce yourself and your current role.
Hi, Amy. Thank you so much for inviting me to this conversation. So I'm a counselling psychologist based in Durban. I've been in private practice for 12 years now, and majority of my private practice has been inpatient and outpatient psychotherapy. And in the past 2 years, I've been focusing more on outpatient work and doing more work incorporating corporate wellness. So it's been a huge focus on corporate wellness and mental health in the workplace.
With all this experience that you've had in your career thus far, was it a natural transition to be a part of this project on improving mental health in the workplace, or what drew you to the project in the first place?
I have to say I was quite honored when I was approached and given this opportunity because I've been doing more work in a corporate space with presentations or webinars on corporate wellness. But mindfulness has specifically been something I focused a lot on over the past few years. It's something that I trained in about 11 years ago, actually, but I hadn't always used until a few years ago, where it's become a part of my own life and I've seen the value in its practical application. And I guess what had put me off initially was trying to make it a separate practice from my normal life, whereas learning to apply it with what I'm already doing in my life made a lot more sense. And I've seen the benefits of mindfulness in the workplace, in relationships, just in your personal life and your own growth as well.
Could you give us an overview of your chapter? I know it's about mindfulness and you've given us such a wonderful idea of the benefits of mindfulness now, but just an overview of what you discussed in your chapter.
So in the chapter, I speak about mindfulness in the workplace and how we can apply mindfulness. So when many people even hear the term mindfulness, they think about sitting cross-legged and meditating, and that's certainly not what mindfulness is. It's actually something very simple. Mindfulness basically means a focused attention on what you're doing in the present. So it doesn't mean keeping the mind blank. It just means focusing on the here and now. So basically being here now. Many of us live in the past, so we replay past events in our mind. We're hung up on what we could have or should have done in certain situations. Or we worry about the future. We're constantly worried about what is going to happen. So the more we focus on the past, the more depressed we're likely to feel. And the more we focus on the future, we're going to be anxious. But we only ever have control of one thing, and that is the present moment. And that is how we can even create a better future for ourselves, by focusing on what we're doing right now.
So just speaking about the future that we're creating and career development, you speak a lot about self-awareness, just I think almost as a synonym for mindfulness. And that, to me at least, links a lot to emotional intelligence. What benefits does mindfulness give to the career development? Does it give the same benefits that emotional intelligence would?
So when we're mindful, we're aware of what we're doing, what we're going through, what we're feeling, what our needs are. So to give you a very practical example, which I think many people will relate to. So think that you're a mom, you're a professional person in the workplace, you had a very stressful day, and you go home and your child does one little thing that upsets you, and you shout at your child. And recognize later on that I shouted at my child not because they did anything that deserved that. It is because I was stressed at work. So when we are self-aware, we are aware of what we are feeling. We know why we're feeling what we're feeling. So what has led to this emotion? So whether it has been a difficult conversation with someone or whether we're stressed about deadlines, we're aware of what we're feeling. And we are more intentional about how we speak to others, how we respond to the things that might trigger us. There are always triggers around us. But when we're mindful, we don't react, we respond. We pause to take stock of how we're feeling, and we think before we act and before we speak. And so the same would happen in the workplace. So we find that we can be more efficient when we're mindful. How we're more efficient is because we're single tasking rather than multitasking. At some point in time, we believed that multitasking was a strength, doing many things at once. However, that leads to more stress because we're less likely to do everything as well as we could if we focused on one thing at a time. So if you focus on one thing and give it your undivided attention, you're more likely to complete it and make fewer mistakes. When we're mindful of our feelings, we know when we're being emotional or bringing other stuff to work. So if you've had a fight with your partner, you're aware about why you're feeling the way you're feeling, and we're less likely to take it out on someone else in the workplace. We know what is going on in our bodies and what our needs are, when we need to take a break, when we need to have a rest, when we need to do less. So the more we take care of ourselves and fulfill our own needs, the more we can give in the workplace. We're also mindful of our interactions with other people, about how professional are we being in the workplace? Are our expectations of others realistic? So when we're self-aware, we have better relationships with others, and we're able to perform our work a lot more effectively and efficiently.
Sure. Well, I think there are so many benefits to the individual and the workplace, as you've mentioned now. But as we're facing the pandemic continuing with this new variant and the economic state that we're in now, I do think many companies might be a little bit skeptical of mental health. Many companies are now in survival mode. They've had retrenchments and budget cuts, and they might view it as more of a luxury. What would you say to companies who have this view? Should we put in mental health on the back burner until we stabilize economically?
I think my experience has actually been quite positive from what I've seen. And of course, this is not majority of corporations, but I've seen more companies become more mindful of mental health and doing more. So in the past, mental health would not even be thought of on a wellness day. So I've actually done, during the pandemic, and in this economic climate, a lot more work in a corporate space on mental health awareness. But with mindfulness in the workplace, many people might think that we don't have the budget to do any sort of mindfulness training. We don't have the time. It's not a priority. So what I would say is that if we separate it from everything we do and see it as a separate thing, then we'll have the view. But if you recognize that a person's mental health is part of who they are and part of everything we do, and being mindful is a way of doing the things we're already doing. It's just a newer way of doing things and a different awareness. Then we realize that it needn't cost us any more money. What companies might not be realizing that your employees' mental health is vital to your bottom end. So your bottom line, because if you want to be profitable, you've got to ensure that your employees are taken care of. Because if employees are stressed, if they don't get mental health challenges addressed, if they aren't given the support or the leave that they need to take care of themselves, their physical and their mental health, that means they're probably going to have longer periods of leave, more absence, or more people leaving the workplace. There's less loyalty to your organization when employees don't feel taken care of, which again costs the company a whole lot more than it would to prioritize mental health. And prioritizing mental health, like I said, it doesn't mean costing money or any extra money. It just might mean checking in on how everyone is doing at the beginning of a meeting that's already happening anyway. So can we ask others, where they are? Can we have a resource list of who can you turn to if you're struggling with something? So can we encourage them to actually take their breaks? Something that we've seen during the pandemic with the move from remote working is that many don't take their breaks. Many don't switch off at the end of the day. So can we encourage healthier workplace practices where employees feel well, they feel taken care of, their physical and their mental health, which, actually the two should not be separate from each other because they both fall under the umbrella of health in any case. But when you care about your employees' wellness in that way, when you set that example of having the balance of having open conversations about how they're feeling, what is stressing them out, including them as part of solutions so everyone can be happier and more harmonious in the workplace, it really helps an organization.
Well, Wilhelm Krauss also wrote a chapter in this book where he discusses the future jobs that we might see in HR. And one of them is a wellness practitioner, someone who is in charge of wellness. Is that one of the routes organizations can take to encourage wellness and to encourage mindfulness? And are there other routes that you could also suggest to organizations that recognize mindfulness and mental health is a bottom line issue and we want to invest in it?
So I think it is important to have a person, and even if it isn't a career that or a position that we're seeing at the moment, having someone in charge of that, even if it's someone in HR that has a resource list that can direct you to the correct channel to get the help. Many employees have medical aid, but they don't even know what benefits they have on the plans they have to access mental health care if that is what is needed for them. But I would say it's encouraging, sticking to working hours, actually taking your breaks, even if it's once a week, have a meeting outdoors. So do something different, encourage spending time in nature, a yoga session, again, something that needn't cost you any extra money if finance is a problem, but showing that you really do care about your employees, asking them, taking turns in a smaller team meeting to show what are you grateful for this week. So making us more mindful just by the type of questions that they ask, checking in on each other. Something that I encouraged, especially during the pandemic, was having a sort of buddy system. Is there one person in your team that you can check up with, and you each check up on each other so you know where you're at and you can support each other, where you feel listened to in some way? Can we minimize distractions in some way in workplaces? What can we do to make employees feel safer at work, feel more comfortable to work in the workspace? One of the biggest distractions in our workday is email. And I always say that if you keep your email inbox open, you probably get very little done because you get interrupted with every little ping. And we might also open an email and forget to respond. So I say, keep your email closed and open it at specific times where that is all you're doing. You're reading your emails, you're replying, and you're archiving, and close it up again. Have designated times to do the things that you need to do, so everything can get done and one activity does not interfere with the other. So it's for organizations to promote wellness and promote individual wellness, knowing that that will contribute to workplace wellness in general. Because if an individual is happier, they relate better to others and they do their job a lot better.
I'm sure, as I have, many of the people reading it will find it extremely helpful. It's available now online and in select stores, so be sure to rush over there to get that. And Jeff, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful day further.
Thank you so much, Amy.